Alright, this is page 1 of the Unit 9A review. So let's start with number 1. We need to graph x minus 1 squared over 4 minus y plus 2 squared over 1, and it's equal to 1. In order to graph, we need to know the vertices, the foci, and the asymptotes. We're also going to need to know the center. And we can find the center right away. Remember, it's HK. H is with X. That's 1 comma negative 2. This is a hyperbola because of the minus sign. So we know which direction it's opening based on the A value, which is on the first term. Always with hyperbolas. Remember, with ellipses, it's on the larger term. With hyperbolas, it's on the first. So that 4 is A squared. So that means that A is 2. B squared is going to be 1. So B is also 1. So my vertices are going to be my center, which is 1. And then I'm going to add or subtract that A value and comma negative 2. So my two vertices are at, let's see, 1 plus 2 is 3 comma negative 2. And 1 minus 2 is negative 1 comma negative 2. My foci, that is the C value. This is A, foci is C. To find my foci, we need to do a little bit of math. Since it's a hyperbola, it's C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. C squared is 4 plus 1, so C squared is 5, so that makes C equal to the square root of 5. And my foci is always in the same direction as the vertices, so it's going to be the same formula, or the same format, 1 plus or minus C negative 2. Those come from the center, and I get 1 plus radical 5 negative 2, and I get 1 minus radical 5 negative 2. The asymptotes. For the asymptotes, we had our equations, or our formulas. I'm going to go over here to the right. It was y equals k plus or minus b over a times x minus h. So if I just start plugging stuff in, y is equal to negative 2 plus or minus b was 1 over 2 times x minus 1. So that's going to give me two lines. Y is equal to negative 2 plus 1 half times x minus 1, and y is equal to negative 2 minus 1 half times x minus 1. Now when we distribute the 1 half, y is equal to negative 2 plus 1 half x minus 1 half. Continue working that out. Shouldn't have had the minus there, sorry. I'm going to get 1 half x, and then negative 2 minus 1 half is negative 5 halves. And then my second equation, y is equal to negative 1 half x. Oh, skipped a step, sorry. Negative 2 minus 1 half x plus 1 half. Simplify that, you get negative 1 half x minus 3 halves. And then now I have everything I need in order to graph. If I want to graph this, I'm going to plot some points. My center is at 1, -2. My vertices are at 3, -2, and -1, -2. We don't need to really worry about graphing the foci, we just had to find them. Okay, and then we need to graph the asymptotes. So -5/2 is -2.5. So I have a intersection, y intersection at -1/2, -2.5. I'm going to go up 1 over 2, and I get an asymptote here, like that. I'm going to graph my second one. That starts at -3/2, which is -1.5, and that one goes down 1 over 2. So I get my second asymptote. It looks like that. Remember, they're supposed to cross through the origin, and they do, or cross through the center, and they do. So now all I have to do is draw the parabolas. We're going to go here, get closer to that asymptote, get close to that asymptote, and on this side, and we're done. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, this time we're going to graph y plus 4 squared is equal to 4 times x minus 1. It's a parabola, and it opens, since it's a y squared, it's going to open horizontally. Because this is a positive 4, it opens to the right. So we're going to get something that looks like this when we're all done. Okay, so we need to find the vertex. Once again, we need to find the focus. And we need to find the directrix. The vertex is still h and k. H comes from the x, so that's 1. K is the y, so that's -4. The focus is p units away from the vertex, and since it's opening side to side, remember we have the vertex here, the focus is going to be inside, so we're moving along the x, so we're going to be adding p to this x value, so it's going to be 1 plus p -4. And when we find p, remember if you look at your formula, the general form y squared equals 4p times x. So this 4p matches what's right there. So if we set those equal, 4p is equal to 4, so p is equal to 1. If I plug that in over here, I get 1 plus 1, which is 2 comma -4. There's my focus. And the directrix is just whichever value we're changing, which in this case is x, equals, and it's going to be my h value minus p. So for us, it's x equals 1 for h, because that came from the vertex, 1 minus p, so that's 1 minus 1, which is 0. So if we go to graph that, we get that guy. The directrix is going to be this vertical line that happens to be on the y-axis because x is 0. My vertex is at 1, -4, and my focus is at 2, -4. So we know the parabola opens to the right. The only other thing that would be good to know, not required, but it would be nice to know, is where it crosses the x-axis. So we can find the x-intercept real quick. And we do that by plugging in 0 for y into the original equation. So I get 4 squared is equal to 4 times x minus 1, and just solve for x. So I get 16 equals 4x minus 4. Add the 4 to the other side. 12 is equal to 4x. So 3 is equal to x. It would help if I did math correctly. That's not a 12. That should be 20, and that's a 5. So we cross the x-axis at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means that down here, that should also be 5 units away. Now I can graph. It would look something like that. That's number 2. Number 3. So we need to graph x plus 3 squared over 12 plus y minus 2 squared over 16 equals 1. Once again, the center is at negative 3, 2. This time it's an ellipse because it's plus. A is the larger value, so it's going to be 16. I'm sorry, a squared is the larger value, so that's 16, so a is 4. B squared is the smaller value, that's 12, so b is equal to the square root of 12, which is 2 radical 3. And then c we can find with a squared minus b squared. C squared is equal to 16 minus 12, so c is equal to 4, so c is 2, and we're going to use that to find the focus. Alright, so vertices. This is it's stretched vertically because the y is bigger, so for my vertices I'm going to be adding or subtracting a to my y value. So it's negative 3 comma 2 plus or minus a. So I get negative 3 and 2 plus 4 is 6, or negative 3 and 2 minus 4 is negative 2. My co-vertices, same thing, just the opposite direction, so we're going to use our b values. So we're adding or subtracting to the x. So it's negative 3 plus or minus b and 2. So negative 3 plus 2 radical 3. It's going to be negative 3 plus or minus 2 radical 3 and 2. And my foci, that's going to be the same as my vertices, but instead of a, it's going to be c. So it's going to be negative 3 and then 2 plus or minus c. So I get negative 3 comma 4 and negative 3, 0. Okay, so if we graph those, remember this is an ellipse, so it should be kind of circular. So we plot our points. My center is at negative 3, 2. I've got a vertex at negative 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, and another one at negative 2. My co-vertices are at negative 3 plus or minus 2 radical 3. 2 radical 3 is about 4. A little bit less than 4. So I'm just going to move 4 units from this center, left and right. 1, 2, 3, 4. A little bit less than that. 1, 2, 3, 4. A little bit less than that, so I'm about right there. And then my focus, negative 3, 4, and negative 3, 0. And I'm going to connect those dots. And we should get an ellipse that looks something like that.